Hi, this is Theo from PuckerBlocks.com. Today I'm out here again at Bukit Pasoh. I'm going to sketch the shop houses that are just behind me. One thing to note about this scene is these shop houses are actually backlit. Usually when I'm picking a subject, I will try to find something that is lit by the sun from the side or from the front. The reason is because with the sun it will cast strong shadows and it will give you the contrast and make it your scene easier and clearer to read. So now I'm just going to draw the roof. Basically, I start with the general outline, so I start with the roof first. For beginners, I would recommend you draw the longest line first. So usually that would be the roof or will be the vertical line, the pillars. That will help you subdivide the building into smaller shapes so that you can get the proportion correct. So now I'm just going to draw the rooftops and then go from left to right. Notice now I'm actually subdividing this shop house building into basically three parts. So there's the top part, the middle section, and the bottom parts where the cars are. So with the guidelines, I can now sort of visualize these shop houses, and this will give me a proportion in mind when I'm drawing. I was drawing that lamppost first because the lamppost is in front of the building, so I draw the foreground first that is in front of the building. Now I'm drawing the pipe, the water pipe from the roof that goes all the way down. This water pipe also serves as a sort of a guideline to the left edge of this particular sketch. So this goes all the way down until it goes behind the car that I'm going to draw. I don't usually have a specific way I work. Sometimes I would add a bit of detail here and there while I'm drawing. Sometimes I'll do the overall sketch first, or there's really no fixed pattern. Now I'm drawing the balcony for the top floor, which is on the third floor. This balcony has some slanted lines because this balcony is actually on the left side, and the side of the balcony will curve to the vanishing point, and this requires a bit of patience and accuracy because you want to get those lines correctly in order to convey the perspective. And to do that, you can raise your hand, just raise your arm basically out, lock your elbows, and use your pen as a tool to judge the angle, and then copy that same angle onto your paper. So every time after I finish drawing a big shape, I will go in to add the little details. Now I'm drawing the window for the shop house. There are 3 windows on each floor for each block. How I place the windows is in such a way that it is in relation to the balcony that I have just drawn. So I will look at where the left edge of the window will start and place it to where my balcony is. As I draw the second row of windows, I'm actually using the first row of windows as a reference. What I mean by that is I'm actually aligning the windows on the second floor to the third and topmost floor so that they will appear to be in the same vertical column. Again, after I finish drawing the big shapes, I will go in to add in the little details such as the carvings on the pillars that are beside the window. I will go in to draw the little window panes, these square things that are on the window itself, and subdivide the windows into smaller proportions so that I can add in further detail later on. So how do I know which line I should draw? Well, one thing I look out for is contrast. So if the line represents a contrast, If I look at a scene and I see that there's a very strong contrast, I will represent that with a line in my sketch. You will be more accurate if you draw the outline for a subject first rather than drawing in the detail. For example, now I'm drawing a car that is behind the left car that is there, and when I drew in the wheel I felt that something was wrong, and the reason is because I had placed the wheels at the incorrect position. So what I should have done is I should have drawn the outline for the car that's behind the first car and then drawing the wheel. So you can see that I have made a mistake here, which could have been avoided if I have drawn the outline of the car first, going with the general before drawing the specific, the details. So after I made the mistake of drawing the wheel first, now with the second car I know that I should draw the outline of this particular car first, but now when you look at it, I made another mistake again, which is I draw in the windows for the car. I should have actually drawn in the whole outline before drawing the windows, because right now the window looks like there are 4 windows when there should be only 3 windows. So it's important to keep that in mind. Also, when you're drawing, when you want to focus on accuracy, well, if you want to be accurate, you just have to draw a bit slower, that's all. Right now I'm drawing the water pipe for the second building. I'm using this water pipe again as a reference, a guide to divide my shop houses into the second shop house and the third shop house. Now I'm drawing some plants that are below the shop houses, but these plants, they are actually in front of the water pipe, so I want that overlapping element to show through. When you're drawing, it's good to have overlapping elements so that they will give you a sense of depth. So when you look at the cars that are in front of each other, the cars are in front of the shop house, the cars are in front of the lamppost, and the lamppost is in front of the shop house, you will get that sense of depth, and that is what you want to look for when you are drawing something. So how do you pick a scene to draw? Look for something that will have overlapping subjects, and when you have overlapping subjects, you will tend to have a better drawing. Now I'm drawing the plants and the door for this shop house on the ground floor. I'm just going to fast forward this part here because this is the same process that I used to draw the first block of shop houses. Generally speaking, is to draw the general shapes first, draw the bigger shapes first before you go in and fill in the details that are within those shapes. I'm not sure how much time I actually spent to complete this line art. Probably about 45 minutes. This is a Khadi Papers sketchbook. This particular page measures 10 by 8 inches, and usually for me, I would spend 1 hour to 1.5 hours if I have to complete 2 pages. So this is just 1 page, so it took me less time, and then I spent another 45 minutes to add on the watercolors. And now I add on the watercolor. This is yellow ochre and a bit of Hansa yellow medium. It doesn't really matter which brand you are using as long as you are using the same shade of yellow. This is a warm yellow, so I'm just going to cover this first block of Shophouse with this color. So how do you actually know where to put on the color? So the method that I use is actually to glance at what I'm drawing, what I'm painting, and try to spot all the areas where there are the yellow colors. So if there's a tiny spot of yellow on the far right side, make sure you paint that in, because if you forget to paint that in, the scene is not going to look correct or look right. Having a bit of color here and there makes the scene more consistent, especially if you have yellow. If you just use yellow, let's say on the left side, and you forget to put yellow on the far right side, then the painting may not be as balanced. Something may be off, but you can't really know why, and probably that's the reason. My style has evolved over the years. Before that, when I started to sketch, I was very careful. I try to make sure that the paint go within the lines. I make sure that the paint does not overlap and come out of the lines. But over the years, I've learned to adopt a more relaxed approach, because I don't want to feel so stressed out when I'm drawing. Anyway, this is just a sketch. Is to have fun. If you really want to have that sort of accuracy, you just have to spend more time on it. It's just the way it is. As mentioned, I also put some yellow on the right side, and it just happens that the doors and windows on the right side have a bit of yellow in them as well. Next, I use the yellow and phthalo blue to mix the green. Since I'm using warm yellow and phthalo blue, the green is going to look a bit warm. Because phthalo blue is such a strong color, try not to use too much of phthalo blue, because just a bit of it will turn the yellow quite dark. And if you want a green that is much brighter, you just have to use a cooler yellow like lemon yellow or azo yellow. I will work my way across the scene, the whole scene, to see where I should put in the green color. So usually I would work with one color at a time. So if I'm using yellow, I'll just use yellow until I finish filling up all the spaces with yellow. Then I'll move on to another color. Now I'm mixing some grays for the darker areas. I use a mixture of Hansa Yellow Medium, Pyro Red Light, and Phthalo Blue. So this will give me a nice warm shade of gray. Basically, your gray can be of any shade. You just have to use 3 primary colors to do that. You can also mix grays with convenient colors like phthalo green and permanent alizari crimson. You just use 2 colors to mix a gray. In this case, I'm already using Hansa yellow and I'm already using phthalo blue, so the next color I want to add really is the pyro red. So we have yellow, red and blue. This will give me a gray tone. I'll use this to add to the darker areas of the scene, just to give it more contrast. And the reason why you need contrast is because if you're just painting a scene with bright colors and there's no dark colors, then if all the colors are bright, then there's not going to be any contrast because there's no dark colors. So that's why you need that contrast. And if, for example, you're using dark colors for your whole scene and there are no bright colors, same thing, there's no contrast. So it's very difficult to tell your audience where to look at. I'm going to fast forward this bit again. This part is the part where I will add in more darker tones to make the shadow areas darker. As I mentioned earlier, this is a backlit scene, so there are no strong shadows. But if you do not add in the darker areas, it will make the scene look very flat. So that's why I go in to add in the darker tones. Usually under the buildings, under the balcony, under the windows. Anything that is supposed to be underneath something, I will go in and add in the dark tones. And without the sun to help me, I won't be able to tell where the shadow will be cast, so I cannot go in and add in the shadow. This is, after all, drawing from observation. If you cannot see the shadow, you can't draw the shadow, but at least you can still add in the darker parts to the underside of the building. For the really darks, such as the window panes, the dark doorways inside of the cars, I'm just using paint spray straight from the pan. Usually I would add a drop or two of water onto the pan and then mix it inside the pan itself rather than onto the mixing tray, so that I can just use as much pigment as I can. And then I will make sure that my brush, the bristles, taper to the sharp point so that I can get details and go in to underline the dark areas and also drop in black spots wherever they are needed. After you add in the dark spots, the really dark areas, the dark washes, you will begin to see your scene come to life. And it is the dark washes that give the scene contrast. So even if you don't use any colors for your sketch, as long as you have very dark colors, maybe a medium gray or a very dark gray plus black, your scene is going to be quite strong and quite striking. Contrast is something that you should always strive for in your drawing. This sketch is almost completed. I will post a scan to the high-res image so they can check out the details. I will also post a one-page summary of all the points that I have talked about so that you can maybe use some of the points to improve your drawing. That's all for my video today. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comment section below. If you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, do so for more sketching tips, techniques, art product reviews. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.